so beautiful.
There you go.
I love that town.
Wow.
Donald Trump
Amazing.
is trying to clean up an attack he made yesterday on the city hosting next month's Republican National. What are you feeling?
I love Milwaukee.
I know you do.
I mean,
while speaking to
it's
House
amazing.
Republicans, Trump called Milwaukee, quote, a horrible city. The comment was first reported by Punchbowl News' Jake Sherman and later confirmed by an NBC News source who was inside the room. Instead of being the site of the RNC, Milwaukee is also the largest, in addition to being the site of the RNC, Milwaukee is also the largest
you
city
know, Willie,
in the key battleground state of Wisconsin.
you know, Willie, what was so funny was, so you actually had Republicans saying, oh, he never said this about Milwaukee, right? Mm-hmm. He never said this about Milwaukee, but he later admitted he said it about Milwaukee, right? Hey, can I just say something? Mm-hmm. To Milwaukee. I love Milwaukee.
So good.
So they start, Willie, by saying, we're not saying this about Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
We love it.
And then they come out and find out that Trump has admitted that he said all these horrible things about Milwaukee. And they go, oh, well, he was just talking about, crime. Then another guy said they're talking about, I guess, the Brewers bullpen. Willie, help me out here. I don't understand. Why would you do that? Like, they keep...
I don't understand either. It's so good.
They keep making it up. Just Milwaukee's wonderful. Just drink it down, my friend. Just drink it down.
I mean,
your thoughts, Willie?
Opening the show with a pair of tall boys of the Beast is just one of the great moves in the history of Morning Joe. I just feel a little left out. I've got a lean cup of coffee sitting over here. Yeah. That looks delicious.
Let me tell you. It is delicious. Drink it up, friends. Drink up Milwaukee.
It's good.
But, it's like Alice Cooper said. This is a special place, right? Like, I don't understand. Let's bring in a guy that knows something.
Yeah, he knows
about old Milwaukee. That's Wisconsin's own Charlie Sykes. Charlie, they can try to spin it. First, they lied because, of course, their Trump Republicans said, oh, he never said that.
Right.
And his spokesperson said, oh, that's BS. Trump never said that. And then, of course, we find out later, Mickey, I hate beer. You don't have to pretend anymore.
Okay.
And then later, they admitted that he said it. And we're spinning the rest of the day. But the fact is, let's just say what it is. I mean, Donald Trump trashed the most important city in the upcoming 2024 election. You know why? Because he's Donald Trump.
Yeah. And then, by the way, Joe and Mika, you're making me thirsty this morning. Even by Milwaukee standards, it's a little bit early. No, I mean, this thing is a farce inside of a fiasco. It was really interesting watching local Republicans struggling to get their stories straight after Donald Trump dumps on Milwaukee. But again, thank you for the montage at the beginning, because look, I am a Milwaukeean. I've been here for a very, very long time, and look. We have our struggles, there are messes, there are challenges, but this is a great city on a great lake in a beautiful region. The Bucks, the Brewers, Harley-Davidson. We have a fantastic lakefront art museum, symphony, ballet. Wait till people see the range of restaurants that we have here. And then Donald Trump comes in and dumps on all of this. Now, by the way, the idea of having this convention in Milwaukee, I mean, this was really the brainchild of Reince Priebus, who has apparently learned nothing over the last 8 years. I regret not giving him a copy of Rick Wilson's book, Everything Trump Touches Dies. But here we are with Donald Trump trashing Milwaukee. And of course, you can imagine how that's playing here. And so you're seeing Republicans in, denying it or coming up with various spins. But I guess the unfortunate thing is, that, given the Trumpian media, this is going to be a talking point that, goes from Trump didn't say it or Trump meant this to, what? Trump was absolutely right. Milwaukee is trash. But I think you made a key point here. Milwaukee can't take it too personally. I think Milwaukee's going to look gorgeous over the summer. We have these fantastic lakefront festivals. But Trump says this about every major city. I mean, have you noticed this? He's trashed New York. He's trashed Washington, D.C. He trashed Baltimore. Donald Trump hates urban America. And again, this is not a news story. It's not a breaking story. He wants to be president of the United States, but only the real United States. Apparently, not great cities like Milwaukee. But what a blunder! What a way to kick all this off. And if Mika doesn't want that beer, I am definitely down for it later this afternoon.
I will not waste it.
We're going to FedEx it to you. We're going to FedEx it to you.
It's going to go in my plans.
Mika, it's so interesting. A couple of years ago, I was having a conversation with Mark Halperin, who, has traveled all over the country. Mm-hmm. And I said, what's your favorite city in America? And what he said, that's easy. It's Milwaukee.
Yeah. Well,
he was like, he said, you'd absolutely love it. It's called the City of Festivals for a reason. There's always something going on in Milwaukee. Of course, they've got great sports teams. But they've got this great urban downtown. They've got an incredible art museum. Georgia O'Keeffe is a Milwaukee native, and they have the largest collection of Georgia O'Keeffe artwork in Milwaukee there. It's a really vibrant, wonderful city. And so, again, it just shows you how clueless this guy is who lives in his Palm Beach Country Club.
He just doesn't feel like going anywhere.
And he lives in a skyscraper in Manhattan. So he doesn't. So outside of Palm Beach and Manhattan, he hates the rest of America.
And fun fact about Milwaukee, it has a large Polish population.
Huge Polish population.
Lots of Poles there.
It does. And what's nice about Milwaukee is you could have chosen from any number of beers for your tall boy this morning. You went with Milwaukee's best. I respect the choice. You could have done PBR. Yeah. You could have done a Miller High Life, the champagne of beers, of course. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And, of course, Giannis lives there, which is sort of the closing argument. I will not to inject fact into this conversation for Donald Trump, but when they pivoted and said, he was just talking about crime, the murder rate is down 39% in the first quarter.
Whoa.
This year in the city of Milwaukee, following a national trend of violent crime dipping this year. So, to Milwaukee. The Biden campaign jumped all over Trump's comment, posting a photo on social media of the president hosting the Milwaukee Bucks at the White House in 2021, along with the caption, I happen to love Milwaukee. The campaign also is now selling T-shirts that read, quote, not a horrible city, over a map of Wisconsin. And Milwaukee there with a star. Meanwhile, the Democratic mayor of Milwaukee had this to say about Trump's attack on his city.
Donald Trump wants to talk about things that he thinks are horrible. All of us lived through his presidency, so right back at you, buddy. I'd say that. Look, obviously, Donald Trump is wrong about something yet again. I find it kind of perplexing. I find it kind of strange that he would insult the largest city in Wisconsin. To insult the state that's hosting your convention, I think is kind of bizarre, actually. It's kind of unhinged.
Yeah, it is unhinged. Let's also bring in the host of Way Too Early, White House Bureau Chief Jonathan Lemire, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and associate editor of The Washington Post and MSNBC political analyst, also a huge fan of Milwaukee, Eugene Robinson, as well as Washington Bureau Chief at USA Today, Susan Page. Jonathan Lemire, a couple weeks ago I said, well, we're not sure if this Trump trial is going to penetrate voters, swing voters, and whether they're going to notice. Let me tell you who did notice what happened yesterday. Milwaukee's most important newspaper, Wisconsin's most important newspaper. They wrote it up on the front page that Donald Trump trashed their city, said it was a horrible city.
The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel led with that, as you might expect. I will note, no drink service here at 30 Rock this morning, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
We'll have to work on that. But this is an unorthodox campaign strategy, to say the least, to attack the biggest city in one of the biggest battleground states in this election. I can only imagine what Donald Trump has in store for, say, Philadelphia, or Atlanta, or Phoenix, or Detroit. Like, just go after all of them. And to Charlie's point, this is certainly an us versus them rhetoric that he's used quite a bit, painting cities, which are more liberal, more progressive, more diverse, as less American than the real red states in rural parts of this country. So that's nothing new. We should also note, in 2016, the RNC, when Trump was nominated, was in Cleveland. He trashed Cleveland, too, and then there wasn't a RNC in 2020. They had it at the White House because of the pandemic. But this is something that is breaking through. You're right. We've seen the polls move just a point or two in the wake of Trump's trial. We see Democrats still struggle to keep that in the news, although it certainly will be forefront of the debate in just 2 weeks' time. But this is what the Biden campaign has been looking for. Trump out of the courtroom, back on the trail, making news and making news that hurts him. And this was such an own goal, if you will, yesterday in D.C.
Well, and this is why, of course, the Trump campaign wanted Donald Trump to stay in the courthouse. They didn't want him on the campaign trail. They don't want him on Capitol Hill because he says really stupid things. He is a human gaffe machine, Gene Robinson, and here he did it with Milwaukee yesterday. I mean, the thing he doesn't understand about these Midwest cities, especially, when we were in Cleveland a couple of years ago for the convention, how long ago? Was that 16? Actually, very long.
16,
Is that the khaki gate?
Decades ago.
Khaki gate.
Yeah, so when we were in Cleveland, the thing I noted about Cleveland was, first of all, a great city, but also the immense pride people took. When we'd go around and say, hey, where are you from? We've been in Denver. We've been all over the place.
They
We
love
say,
their
oh, we're in
team.
Denver. We're here. They're like, Cleveland. Been here my whole life. I love it. I found the same thing with, Milwaukee. People in Milwaukee, and it's not Democrats in Milwaukee. It's not Republicans in Milwaukee.
It's Milwaukee.
It's everybody in Milwaukee outside of the Republican politicians who love trashing it. They take great pride in their city for a great reason. It's a great town.
Yeah, absolutely. And these cities like Cleveland, like Milwaukee, that Donald Trump hates, have had such a rebound over the past couple of decades, and their downtowns are sparkling and active and so much fun. That art museum that Charlie was talking about, the designed by Santiago Calatrava, the famous architect. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous there.
Gorgeous
on the lakefront. It is. It's a great city. But so that's a crazy thing for Donald Trump to say, right? But it just reminds me that he says crazy, irrational, weird and unhinged things all the time. He doesn't make sense. He doesn't. He's not. There's something seriously wrong inside his head, and this is yet another manifestation. We're going to see it again and again and again because that's the way he is. And so, I guess the Biden campaign is just really, really happy that he's out there, just sort of spewing it out.
Gallup put out, of course, a poll recently and said that the number of Americans who consider themselves pro-choice higher than ever. The number of Americans who say they are voting exclusively on the issue of abortion or will not vote for a candidate who does not support choice higher than ever. I mean, you have the numbers that continue to go up now 13 points over the past decade, and there is just no doubt. And by the way, people who consider themselves pro-life down 9 percentage points. And then I'd only vote for someone who shares my abortion views now 32% compared to 17%. Also, something else that I noticed, Jonathan, in this poll that was fascinating. And it was the number of pro-life Americans who are really engaged on this topic is dropping. Why is it dropping? They've got what they wanted. It's kind of like after the Cold War was over. The Cold Warriors were a bit out of vogue. A guy like Bill Clinton could get elected a year after the Soviet Union fell. Winston Churchill could be voted out of office in 1945 after he won the Second World War. They won the big battle. Well, this is a generational battle that pro-life forces have been fighting, and they won. And so they're just not as engaged on this as women who actually know this is personal. This is personal to their freedom. This is personal to their families. This is personal to whether they're able to have a baby or not. This is personal to whether their 10-year-old girl who gets raped is going to be forced by the state to have a child or be sterilized because of tragedy that befalls them. I mean, this is having such an impact, and you're seeing it in these numbers.
Yeah, and it's possible that all of the election analysis, all the punditry about 2024 is missing the sleeping giant of this election, which is the same one of the last couple, abortion rights. That, yes, that we're so consumed with conversations about President Biden's age or even Donald Trump's criminal convictions or, yes, Milwaukee. But really, this here will be the definitive issue again, like it was in 2022, like it has been in a number of special elections all since the Dobbs decision. And the Democrats, well, have basically been undefeated on this issue ever since. And abortion rights, certainly the Biden campaign believes, along with the economy, will be the two biggest components here. And we are seeing there are so many Americans, Joe and Mika, who are going to vote on this issue and this issue alone, particularly, but not limited to, suburban women who very well may be the deciding demographic of this election. We shouldn't be overlooking how important this all is, particularly as Democrats, Eugene's right, expect to hear the phrase Trump abortion ban a lot from Vice President Harris and others going forward. And they also are going to warn them about threats to IVF, contraception, and more.
Well, since the Trump abortion ban, pro-choice pro-choice votes in state after state after state have broken for pro-choice forces in states like Kansas, Kentucky, Ohio. It's not really even close. It's way above the majority in all of those states.
The people are speaking on this
The reddest of red states.
And these nightmare stories that keep pouring out of women suffering because of these bans. I mean, really, what did you expect?
Because of Donald
Still
Trump.
ahead.
And by the way, Donald Trump still so proud of it.
I know.
Still brags about terminating
Proud
Roe.
of torturing people. So Donald Trump was back on Capitol Hill yesterday for the first time since the January 6, 2021 insurrection, and Republicans gave him a hero's welcome. The presumptive 2024 GOP nominee briefly addressed the press after gathering with House and Senate Republicans in two separate meetings, touting his great relationships with everyone present.
This is an outstanding group of people. I'm with them 1,000%. They're with me 1,000%. We agree just about on everything, and if there isn't, we work it out.
He said very complimentary things about all of us. We had sustained applause. He said, I'm doing a very good job. I mean, we're grateful for that.
He saw me. I was sitting back a little ways. He saw me in there, and he was like, hello, Marjorie. He's always so sweet and recognizes me.
He's electric. He's got an incredible fastball. And I think that it was just exciting after all he'd been through, how strong this man is. I've never seen someone be able to take all the heat that he's taken and come in there ready to lead.
He was the team captain, and we were glad he was leading us. It was the single best meeting I've ever seen between the United States Republican senators and President Trump.
You know, and Willie, just in case you're keeping score at home, they were saying this about a man convicted of 34 felonies, found liable for sexual assault against a woman, was found to be guilty by definition, in definitional purposes, by a judge in New York of raping that woman. He said, you can call it what you want to call it, but everybody else outside this courtroom calls it rape. When he talked about definitions of the U.S. Army or definitions of, again, medical organizations. And this is who the Republicans are throwing their arms around with reckless abandonment. And again, for political purposes, let me say again, because I'm so nice, and I like to warn people before they stick their hand on the stove for the 8th time, this is also the man that led Republicans' defeats in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and it'll happen again in 2024. And one of those people talking, Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, the guy who said in 2016 and got it right before that losing streak, he said, if we nominate Trump, we will be destroyed as a party and we will deserve it. So here we go. It's about to be an 8-year losing streak.
I mean, you could go to a Taylor Swift concert this summer and see less giddiness about her from teenage girls than we saw from Republicans on Capitol Hill about Donald Trump right there. It's truly staggering. These are grown men, supposed leaders, who just cannot be more excited to be in the same room, to breathe the same oxygen as Donald Trump, to jump up to standing ovations. And as you say, Joe, many of the people in that room giving him an ovation, getting as close as they can to make sure they're in all the photographs with him for their campaign ads, are the ones who condemned him on January 6th, in the days after January 6th, before they put their fingers in the wind and realized that his supporters still liked him and changed completely. It's not surprising anymore, but to see it up close with him side by side with them and then running to cameras to talk about how excited they were to have been waved at or recognized by him in some way. It is something to behold. And that meeting with Republican senators also, by the way, marked the first time Trump and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell have come face to face since 2020. After the meeting, McConnell told reporters the meeting was, quote, good.
We had a good meeting. Did he say anything about you?
Did you talk to him directly? Did you talk to him directly?
Yeah, we shook hands and he took questions from the audience, and it was an entirely positive session.
So after seeing that photograph of Mitch McConnell shaking hands with Donald Trump, Liz Cheney posted, I won't read all of it, but you get the gist. Mitch McConnell knows, writes Cheney, Trump provoked the violent attack on our Capitol and then watched television happily as his mob brutally beat police officers and hunted the vice president. He knows Trump refused for hours to tell his mob to leave. And even then, with police officers bleeding, he kept repeating his election lies and praising the criminals. He knows Trump committed a disgraceful dereliction of duty and is a danger to our Republican. Trump and his collaborators will be defeated, and history will remember the shame of people like Leader McConnell who enabled him, Joe. That is from Liz Cheney after having seen that scene on Capitol Hill yesterday.
It's 100% correct.
Liz Cheney, and she wrote, what she wrote there, Mitch McConnell basically said, when he was talking about what happened on January the 6th. You talk to people, liberals, conservatives, you talk to people who were there on January 6th, no one was more angered by what happened than Mitch McConnell. And Mitch McConnell talked about it. When he was on the Senate floor, he talked about all of those things that Liz Cheney said right there. And now, again, it's just a collective sort of amnesia and just complete moral vacuum and at the core of the Republican Party. And what about Mike Johnson? We gave him sustained applause. It's so painful.
Yeah.
It's just
that was
painful.
like, by the way, exactly what Trump wants to hear. A lot of people were clapping for him. That's like the childish 5-year-old mentality about his audiences and clapping. Very strange and very lame that Mike Johnson would feel the need to do that. Let's bring in NBC News and MSNBC political analyst, former U.S. Senator and former prosecutor Claire McCaskill. She and Jim Palmieri are co-hosts of the MSNBC podcast, How to Win 2024. Also senior political columnist for Politico, Jonathan Martin.
J. Mart.
I'm just going to leave that there. And staff writer for The New Yorker, Susan Glasser.
So J. Mart, you have traveled around the country.
You look like it.
You have talked to Republicans. You have talked to elected leaders on both sides of the House. You know, like I know, because I've talked to them too, all of those people clapping and all of those people hugging Donald Trump. And all of those saluting Donald Trump, all hate Donald Trump, all say terrible things behind his back. And even that guy right there said, if you're a Christian, J.D. Vance, at one point said, if you're a Christian, you cannot vote for this man. And yet, here we are, J. Mart.
They're living a life that they're not terribly thrilled about, but it's the life that they've chosen because their voters like him, Joe, their voters love him, actually, and they live in fear of their voters. And look, that's the issue, right? There's a fundamental difference between the leadership class of the party and the rank and file voters. They're not the same party. And you've got a residue of an earlier party that's still left, especially in the Senate, that does not reflect where the party's voters are. So they have to fake it. And they've been doing that for going on a decade now. Some of them quit or retire or are defeated. But if those who stick around, they make this accommodation and they do it unhappily. But that's the life that they're living. And boy, guys, I have to say, to have Doug Mills, the prize-winning photographer for the New York Times, come into the NRSC yesterday to shoot that session, to record it for history. Trump knows what he's doing. He's getting the best photographer in journalism today to come record all the supplicants in the Senate kiss his ring yesterday because he wants those pictures for history.
Supplicants. And, you know, Claire McCaskill, Willie and I talk about it all the time. And we will just say, because we're men, we talk about how we would respond as men if somebody insulted our wives and called them ugly, and if somebody accused our father of being part of the JFK assassination, or if somebody gave out our phone numbers, like Trump gave out Lindsey Graham's phone numbers and insulted Lindsey as much as he did. We could just go down the list. You know, I mean, Mitch McConnell shook hands with a man who has unleashed a torrent of racist comments about his wife. But he did it. I just got to say, this, I'm old guy, so I'll just say the way that we would say it in the past, and Willie and I have talked about it now. As a man, you do any of those things, you cross that line, there is no going back. There, you insult my father, my wife. Like, there's no going back. There's no shaking your hand. There's no endorsing you. In fact, I will focus on destroying your political career for the rest of my life. By the way, people who know me know. When they have insulted close friends who have passed away, I literally spent the next 20 years going after them because, well,
it's wrong.
You just don't let bullies beat up friends and family members.
Yeah, I watched that video, and my former colleagues were going, power, self-respect, power, self-respect. Okay, I'll go with power. I'm not going to go with self-respect. A couple of things stood out to me about his meetings on the Hill yesterday. One, did you see that awkward moment where Joni Ernst was forced to kiss his cheek? Katie Britt rushed him and, of course, was like, oh, I love you, and hugged him and stuff. And then he walks by Joni Ernst and he sticks his cheek out, and Joni kind of goes over there and has to peck it. And by the way, this picture of Josh Hawley, I wish somebody would ask Josh Hawley what he was running from that day on January 6th when the cameras caught him running. And why was he running? If he's written a book on masculinity and how you be a man, I don't know what men run from, but usually it's because they're afraid for their lives. So, and then the other thing that was, think about this for a minute, guys. Donald Trump got in front of members of Congress and wanted to talk about whether Taylor Swift was going to endorse him. I mean, that's just weird. I mean, that is a scrambled brain. First of all, they're under no set of circumstances is Taylor Swift ever gonna endorse Donald Trump, ever. And so him bringing it up is such a self-own that he cares more about Taylor Swift endorsing him than any of those losers that he was requiring to applaud him.
You know, Claire McCaskill, Willie and I talk about it all the time. And we will just say, because we're men, we talk about how we would respond as men if somebody insulted our wives and called them ugly, and if somebody accused our father of being part of the JFK assassination, or if somebody gave out our phone numbers, like Trump gave out Lindsey Graham's phone numbers and insulted Lindsey as much as he did. We could just go down the list. You know, I mean, Mitch McConnell shook hands with a man who has unleashed a torrent of racist comments about his wife. But he did it. I just got to say, this, I'm an old guy, so I'll just say the way that we would say it in the past, and Willie and I have talked about it now. As a man, you do any of those things, you cross that line, there is no going back. There, you insult my father, my wife, like, there's no going back. There's no shaking your hand. There's no endorsing you. In fact, I will focus on destroying your political career for the rest of my life. By the way, people who know me know when they have insulted close friends who have passed away, I literally spent the next 20 years going after them because, well,
it's wrong.
You just don't let bullies beat up friends and family members.
Yeah, I watched that video, and my former colleagues were going, power, self-respect, power, self-respect. Okay, I'll go with power. I'm not going to go with self-respect. Couple of things stood out to me about his meetings on the Hill yesterday. One, did you see that awkward moment where Joni Ernst was forced to kiss his cheek? Katie Britt rushed him and, of course, was like, oh, I love you, and hugged him and stuff. And then he walks by Joni Ernst and he sticks his cheek out, and Joni kind of goes over there and has to peck it. And by the way, this picture of Josh Hawley, I wish somebody would ask Josh Hawley what he was running from that day on January 6th when the cameras caught him running. And why was he running? If he's written a book on masculinity and how you be a man, I don't know what men run from, but usually it's because they're afraid for their lives. So, and then the other thing that was, think about this for a minute, guys. Donald Trump got in front of members of Congress and wanted to talk about whether Taylor Swift was going to endorse him. I mean, that's just weird. I mean, that is a scrambled brain. First of all, they're under no set of circumstances is Taylor Swift ever gonna endorse Donald Trump, ever. And so him bringing it up is such a self-own that he cares more about Taylor Swift endorsing him than any of those losers that he was requiring to applaud him.